Good morning and thank you for joining our Webbite series. The RDA ACT Webbite series was created to give our viewers a taste of what's coming up in the Food in the Capital event. So today I'm very excited to speak to Ben Lee. He is the founder and director of Invertigro. Now, Invertigro are a very exciting company that actually produce vertical farms. And I think particularly in this era of a real sense of importance on food security, food sustainability, the vertical farms are a very exciting project and something that I think we should be seeing a lot more of. So thank you very much for joining us, Ben.
Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks for having me on the series.
So tell me about your company and what you do. And in particular, I would love to know about the structure behind you.
So just a bit of a background. Invertigro is a indoor farming solutions company, and we build end-to-end solutions for easy adoption of indoor vertical farming systems to be able to be vertically integrated into existing businesses. And the glowing system you see behind me is one of our products called the inverter wall. And the inverter wall is actually it's an aesthetically pleasing, productive green wall. And it is one of the first examples that's going into a new development over at the ACT. And it's a point of sale product, which we have developed for out of demand from our customers.
It is a really beautiful structure. So what does that mean to a business that has that there? Is it something along the lines of you can actually see your produce being picked straight out of the garden, in a sense, and going onto your plate?
Absolutely. So the idea was born through some demand, from customer demand. And the systems one of the systems that we have is actually called the Inverticube. And that is a modular and highly efficient commercial urban farming system. Now, in order for the customers to demonstrate what they are doing, we came up with the inverter wall, which is an accessible green wall, which is functional and also productive. So it can, it will produce herbs, leafy greens, soft fruits and vegetables that can be easily accessed. So for example, if you see yourself in a hotel or in a restaurant and the chefs are turning around to the back of their kitchen unit and snipping off these green leaves or herbs and adding it to your dish almost immediately, you know that you're going to have like the freshest experience ever.
It puts paddock to plate in a whole new concept, doesn't it? I think it's a very exciting idea, and I love the structure. It's actually a really interesting structure that becomes a focal point of a business.
Yes, absolutely. So I mean, the aesthetics was a key consideration in developing this product, and we're very proud of my engineering team who've been able to make form and function work closely together.
So what introduced you, or what inspired you to go into something like vertical farming?
Well, Invertigro was actually born through trial and error. The early incarnation was a business called Home Farms, which was established in Singapore. And the intention then was to build an indoor farm there to address address the issue of food security. However, despite recognizing the need and the benefits of indoor farming, the industry was, and in many ways still is, in its nascent phase. And we ourselves were quite ahead of ourselves, and without understanding the lay of the land very clearly. And many solutions for indoor farming that were on offer were dismissed due to high capital and operating costs. Through this phase of learning, it became very apparent that we were looking at a much greater opportunity if, rather than competing in the food chain, we were to focus on enabling others who are already in the food chain to supplement or even switch to become highly efficient indoor farmers. Now, fast forward to 2018, I moved over to Sydney, and together with my co-founder, Paul Millett, we founded Invertigro to address the problem around the industry's often prohibitive setup costs and high ongoing operating costs. Through our innovation, we are now very proud to be able to offer a fully integrated product using improved technologies focused on delivering affordable, flexible, and scalable growing solutions.
It's an incredibly exciting venture and something that I think has an enormous future. What is the potential that you can see for this, particularly in light of COVID and the challenges that have occurred through food scarcity?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
What do you think the future is for something like the vertical farms within the community, taking into account particularly the emphasis that is at the moment on food scarcity and low food miles? What is the potential for vertical farms in the future?
Well, I think vertical farms are starting to, pop up as a much more viable option, given, improvements in some of the technological components within the systems itself. So, the improvement of LEDs actually makes it more affordable to run. The opportunities that we see, especially in light of COVID, is if you can actually grow your food closer to the source of your consumption, then you're cutting out a lot of the supply chain and the miles that are involved in transporting food. So I think in Australia, where an average distance from your farm to plate is 745 kilometers. And we see that, during this whole transport phase, there's a potential for a lot of waste that is generated. So we're looking to really use indoor farms, it's to augment traditional farming systems, and to where we see we can reduce a lot of wastage, where there's over 50% of the world's fresh fruit and vegetables that are wasted each year. And perishable products like leafy greens and salads, soft fruits and berries, in the supply chain alone, you can the wastage can exceed 60 to 70%. So, we're not saying that we will replace traditional agriculture, but it is really augmenting the traditional producers. So, where we can grow sort of perishable produce closer to the point of consumption.
What are the biggest challenges that you're facing bringing forward such an amazing technology into cities and into regions?
Well, I think like any new industry or fundamental shift from the status quo, there's many roadblocks, or actually more accurately, speed bumps. And this is what we were looking at in the adoption of vertical farming within Australia. As mentioned earlier, we at Invertigro, we are doing our bit to address some of the traditional barriers to entry for indoor vertical farming generally, and a lot of it is cost and skills. Our modular systems are designed for cost-efficient setup and operations, and our hardware and software are integrated solutions and backed by optimized cropped recipes and ongoing R&D. We allow almost anyone without any prior agricultural experience to quickly skill themselves up into becoming a modern farmer. And I think adoption of indoor vertical farming in Australia at this point also, requires a lot of support, and especially like government support at all levels, from startup grant funding to local development, and promoting the uptake of new technologies through local government planning, regulatory permissions to allow food production in urban zone areas. And we are, although the industry is still very nascent here in Australia, we're seeing early signs of very positive support. But I think the key hurdle that we face really is the mindset. Consumer awareness and demands are shifting towards increasingly healthy, sustainable plant-based foods. but Australia kind of does trail behind the rest of the world in seeing indoor farming as part of the solution. I think it's an underlying complacency due to that, the understanding that, or the thought that traditional agriculture will continue to provide. But, we are seeing increasing pressures on our arable land through urban sprawl, and traditional farming practices that, need to be updated with the times, I think. And in combination with other external factors that we have seen with skyrocketing prices, diminished quality, empty supermarket shelves as a result of droughts, floods, COVID, our food supply insecurity is really not immune to disruptions. And I see, with indoor vertical farming, when integrated into the Australian food system, not only supplements local food supply, but can also provide insurance against disruption to our ongoing fresh food supply.
Absolutely. Look, I can see so many uses for it, particularly in having gone through where a region has been completely cut off because of fires, for example. Having a food supply like that within the region just solves so many problems. And I understand it's actually it's a very good way to farm. It doesn't use the same amount of water and other supplies that a normal farm that you would think of as in terms of hundreds of acres of land will use. So it's actually much more sustainable and environmentally friendly as well, if I'm correct. And I can also see the potential that basically any space that is vacant in a city, for example, an empty warehouse or a basement or a car park, seems to me to have the potential to be able to turn into a farm and deal with that food security. Is that feasible?
Yes, so I think that's part of the ethos in designing our systems, was that it would be modular to be able to fit into defunct spaces, or spaces or latent spaces that were coming up for use. So I think a lot of the manufacturing industry that has left Australia gives us an opportunity to reuse those standing warehouses and to scale it up quickly using standard warehouse installations, such as pallet racking, and using forklift trucks, which is the way we've designed our systems to be easily handled, as well as underground spaces like car parks, as people are driving less into the city, relying more on public transport with their sustainability hat on. The underground spaces are becoming more and more available, and so for the property owners and the landlords, they're looking to make a return on that space, and how do you make that a functional space that's still that's actually producing a product that can cover the rent. So, the modules that we have built can actually go into car parking spaces, and the turnaround in terms of the produce that we grow can generate revenue to cover that ground cost.
It's really got unlimited potential. Well, how do you see if you had a perfect world, how would you see vertical farms being implemented in cities? Use Canberra as an example.
Use Canberra as an example.
Just make it challenging.
Firstly, our vision and our mission is to feed the world a smarter way. And, as we mentioned before, that consumers becoming increasingly discerning and sustainability driven, and the focus on the source of the food and the food miles, carbon footprint, water usage, and the waste that's associated with their food supply is under scrutiny. In Australia, I think we see that the supply of major staples like fruits and vegetables, and particularly those products that transport well and have a long shelf life after harvest, those will continue to come from the traditional farming supply chains. But for cities, and I think Canberra, forgive me if I'm making the wrong comment here, but with poor soil quality, especially around the region, I think that indoor vertical farming can actually we see a big future for a city implementation for indoor vertical farming, as you can then have highly you can have production of highly perishable food via hyperlocal microgrid style indoor vertical farms. And these can provide a wide variety of consistently high quality, fresh, nutritious produce with lower food miles and lower resource requirements. Especially I think the modern day palate is so used to having out of season produce demand, which, indoor vertical farms, because it's a controlled environment, you can actually grow produce out of season. So rather than importing, say, asparagus from Mexico out of season, the technologies are being developed so we can actually grow it locally out of season, as well as during the spring season, that it's more generally available. Yeah. So then we also see that these food production hubs can be deployed in cities where there is a high requirement for food, but you can also replicate these to urban, suburban, regional, and even remote locations. Yeah, and so I think by bringing the farm closer to the table, especially with the perishables, the model provides opportunities for the greater community connection with where our food comes from.
I think it's just incredible. I find the vertical farms incredibly exciting. So let's finish on a high. What is the greatest achievement that you have had so far? And looking back through what you've done, that would be a pretty hard choice.
I think the greatest achievement is having built a wonderful team that supports the vision, and also being able to tell the story of bringing indoor vertical farming into urban cities in Australia. And I think that's a really key point that we're very proud of being involved in. Apart from we have also been involved with a Mars simulation back at the end of last year, where we built a one tower column that was taken to a Mars simulation, and we continue to look forward to working with the space associations across the world to bring food not only to your urban spaces, but also to extraterrestrial uses.
I think that's incredible. Absolutely amazing. So the future of Invertigro may well be in space.
Well, in space, in latent spaces on Earth as well. And in a store, in a local store coming to you soon.
Sounds marvelous. Look, thank you very much, Ben. Is there anything I've missed or anything you would like to add?
No, not at this moment, Suzanne. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And I really look forward to seeing you at Food in the Capital.
Absolutely. Look forward to being there.
Thank you.